Hello and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Atlas Information Live. I'm your host, Atlas Alux, and I apologize for being late. It is rather uncharacteristic of me to be late, but whether you believe this or not, I just finished setting up my computer. There's no green screen. There's empty shelves in the background. Uh, because clearly I am not yet finished moving. But I moved everything over with the full intention of having the computer and everything ready to go by 2 o'clock this afternoon. And let's just say, in typical fashion, there were always the Murphy's Law. That which can go wrong will. But frankly, some of the issues were just. I mean, when you're moving into a new space and you've been in a everything's been set up a certain way, you take for granted things like, oh yeah, I have enough power, right? Oh yeah, the way that everything is arranged, I have enough power bars to, and I have enough extension cords, and I have enough LAN cables and HDMI cables, and yeah, it's going to work itself out. And it did work itself out to a degree, but I have, in some cases, an exorbitantly excess amount of cable. Like, so I have an extra like 4, 5, maybe 6 feet of HDMI cable, but the particular cable that connects monitors to computers, that I'm short of at least 3 feet. So I have a cable that's practically going over my shoulder here. And you can see there's no green screen. I haven't had time to set that up. Anyway, we're gonna rough it. At least hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. And well, there it is. Uh, this represents a shift, of course, in the trajectory of my life. It's a new dawn, if you will. It's a the next and indeed possibly final phase of my work here, which is really the beginning. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe. It's hard to explain. I mean, when someone's, over 50 years old and talking about beginning, starting what they came here to do, it seems a bit odd. But indeed, that's that's what it's been for me. And you might reflect on that, and perhaps in your own life and the people you know and the world around us in general, as we comprehend the rat race that everyone is in. And the thumbnail for today's talk, and of course its title, relates to this word race. And how everyone, depending on where you go, really, but the more urbanized an area, so the more urban a center, it seems life gets sped up and everyone is literally racing around all the time. They have so much to do. They're racing against the clock, and we have all of these idioms and metaphors to describe. There's never enough time. And it's worthwhile to consider, in accordance with the Hermetic principles of correspondence. So as above, so below, as within, so without. Any of you who have sat down to try and meditate know of the busy mind, the mind that is always racing. And the more heightened state you are in, physically, emotionally, energetically, very often that mind races at breakneck speed. And today, we're going to explore that relationship. The relationship between this busy, crazy, sped up world and the busy mind. The world that is always racing, racing towards something, racing against something, racing against the clock. And the mind that is always racing. What is the connection? Is there a connection? Am I just pointing out some strange coincidence? One of the races that are on right now as we speak, as you are probably well aware of, is the race towards what they call AGI, or artificial general intelligence. This is a race between billionaires and tech bros, billionaire tech bros and their tech companies, but also various other interests. And they're locked in this race of constant advancement and development of AI, and they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars, and in aggregate they're spending trillions of dollars frantically building these data centers to crunch the numbers in order to be able to, in their minds, achieve the holy grail, which is artificial general intelligence, a thinking machine. And it's hopefully you see how ironic all of this is. Ironic from the standpoint that, are we not thinking machines already? Did we not design AI to mimic and model the synapses of our own brain? Is the brain not a neurobiological machine? But it's messy, right? People are messy and they're emotional, and they cannot be controlled. They cannot, or at least in the modern era, slavery has been abolished officially, but of course it continues all over the world. Slavery continues. Officially, it's been abolished, but unofficially, it's still a much more than just a cottage industry all over the world. And also, the human mind seems limited in scope, in its abilities and capabilities, whereas an artificial general intelligence holds out the promise for something more, something unlimited, or it's limited only by the resources that we can throw at it, the computing power, the training data, and so on. So there's this race to create a mind, a artificial mind. And what is racing to achieve that? Well, minds. You have mechanical minds racing to achieve artificial general intelligence. There's this frantic rush to make this happen, as if somebody somewhere knows that time is running out and that they have to get this done. It seems like they have some kind of a deadline or something, but they're racing not so much against one another, although that is very much the case, but it really does feel like they're racing against the clock. Like there's a countdown timer. Like in so many action and suspense and thriller movies where, you know, there's a ticking time bomb, so to speak. And again, when you sit down or lie down to meditate, you observe yourself, observe your mind. What do you observe? If not a mind that is disquiet, is racing. Thought after thought after thought after thought after thought. Emotion, sensation. What does it all mean? How are these two things connected? You see, a machine wants to run. In simple terms, what happens if a machine stops running? From the point of view of the machine, if it stops running, what can we say about it, or what can it say about itself or think about itself? Well, it can't, can it? It stopped running, it stopped functioning. Practically speaking, for lack of a better word, the machine dies. And we even use that word to describe machines that no longer function. Be it a laptop, a phone, a toaster oven, a refrigerator, washing machine, you name it. These things die on us almost all the time. Now, in the olden days, a refrigerator would run for 50 years. But of course, nowadays, maybe it'll run for 5 because we're in this disposable economy, the economy of high turnover. Everything is made with planned obsolescence and a engineered end of life, which usually happens shortly after warranty expires. Now you can get lucky, and there are still companies out there that make good, solid quality stuff. But in general, from fast fashion to everything else, I mean, things have a very, very short lifespan, and I have to say that moving into this place was this, I had to get some things, and given my situation, some of these things, or many of these things, I had to turn to Amazon and other online retailers because not driving and not being able to go, and not wanting to deal with deliveries and all this kind of stuff, like local deliveries. And I can tell you that near everything that I bought, I had to send it like a good third of it back. And even much of what remained was it's just trash. It's so awful. It's looks great online. Looks great in the photos. But when it shows up on your door and you pick it up and you're like, you're flabbergasted because it has no weight. Even the box that they sent you, did they send me air? Like, is is they send me an empty box? And you open it up, and sure enough, there's something in there. But the metal doesn't even feel like metal anymore. I don't know what the Chinese did. I'm not a metallurgist, so I don't know all of my alloys. But somehow the Chinese have managed to engineer a kind of metal that feels nothing like metal. And it has no weight to it, no mass whatsoever. It's not even cold to the touch. It may as well be plastic. It's not plastic, it's metal, but it's and of course, what isn't this faux metal, whatever this is, what this alloy, what isn't that is plastic. And it's the cheapest kind of awful. So that was rather a discouraging aspect of the past 2 weeks of moving and having to equip the place with that which is required. Things for the kitchen and things for the bathroom. And so much of it I had to send back because it was just not functional. It looked pretty from afar, but as soon as you had to interact with it, it just became clear that this was not this was not a serious attempt at making something that was practical and usable in a meaningful way. It's like, I don't even think um, calling it the disposal culture or fast capitalism or what have you. I don't even think that even does it justice anymore. I think it's like scam capitalism. It's like clickbait. You know, when the title and the thumbnail and the it's so promising, it's so alluring. Remember a few weeks ago we were talking about that which is alluring, and you go on to places like Amazon or Wayfair or these other, you know, and you will look at these products and they look tip top, but they are, it's, I mean, what else can you call it but like clickbait, a scam? You pay your money and you get this thing that was presented a certain way, but then when it shows up, it, it's, did I order this? And the answer is no, you didn't order that. You ordered what was on the website. You ordered that, those photos and those descriptions and this and that and the other thing. And what you got was like a reasonable hand-drawn facsimile made out of plastic. I've spoken before of the law known as the conservation of energy. I believe it's the second law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics is energy can neither be created nor destroyed, can only change from one form to another. And the second law of thermodynamics, and I think that I'm right in that it's the second law, um, is that nature is the law of conservation of energy. Nature seeks to use as little energy as possible. It seeks the most efficient route to achieve its goals. That, another word for that is efficiency. And when you look at the enshittification of products and services by the big machine, because it's happening, it's a systemic problem, but it's particularly dire with large corporations, multinationals, and so on. What you are looking at is the law of conservation of energy. They're finding ways to put the absolute least amount of time, effort, energy, and materials, resources into the product that meets a certain threshold, a minimum threshold of requirements, of you know, and that threshold keeps getting pushed down. And you might argue that because of competition and whatnot, that margins are being, made to be razor thin, and so it's like this tug of war, this constant arms race against inflation and other economic and real forces related to scarcity of resources and so on and so forth. But it seems like year after year after year, what is deemed acceptable is just, it's just not. But what's the alternative? And it's the big machine that does this, that seeks to get more with less, to extract as much as possible from markets with the least amount of effort, energy, and resources. That's the law of conservation of energy. And that law exists, or it expresses, in corporations and governments, nations. Because a machine, in order to run, needs power. It needs energy. So if a system, if the big machine is not careful with its energy management, then it will prematurely run out of energy and die. It'll cease to run because a system can't run without energy. So efficiency, in that sense, is a survival instinct or survival strategy, let's say. And it's a survival strategy also from the standpoint of efficiency helps you run farther, faster, longer with the same amount of fuel. You might end up using the same amount of fuel or even more fuel, but you will have run a greater distance or at a faster speed. And that, where one's survival is concerned, one's existence is concerned. Is where a mechanical machine way of thinking is concerned. It's a no-brainer. We have to use as little of our energy as possible. And you can see this in the great billionaire cheapskates. There have been many stories throughout history of, before it was millionaires, then it was hundreds of millions of dollars, now it's billionaires, and now billionaires in the double digits and so on. Many stories of these ultra wealthy individuals and families who lived, even if they had an outwardly opulent castle or some other lavish sort of home, the reality was that they lived a very miserly way of living. A few years back, there was this movie called All the Money in the World that was directed by Tony Scott. I don't think Ridley Scott directed. I think it was Tony Scott, Ridley's brother. And it was originally was supposed to star Kevin Spacey, but then he ran into his troubles. So eventually, they had Christopher Plummer come in and do the part of I'm trying to remember his name. Did John Paul Getty? John Paul Getty? No. Anyway, it's the case of the this multimillionaire. I think it was Getty, and his grandson was kidnapped and held for ransom, and he refused to pay the ransom. And in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a lot of money, but he never capitulated. He never gave in. And it was notoriously difficult. He hired I guess you would call him a bodyguard / private investigator to help solve the crime and find his grandson. But many more examples of billionaires who drive Toyota Corollas, right? They don't drive Lamborghinis and Bugattis and Rolls Royces or whatever. No, it's drive a Toyota Corolla, and they again live very modestly. In some cases, a very miserly way, because waste not, want not, and it's not about the money when one is ruled by one's mechanical self. It's about efficiency, because it's never about having enough. One can never have enough. The machine, it's going to hoard. It's going to collect its power. It's going to make sure that it can run forever. Now we know that that's not possible, but the machine behaves as though it is possible, and that's the way people behave. People behave like they're going to live to be 100. So the use of energy and the exploitation of energy and our energy that is coveted by our own internal machine, our own machine mind. Without that power, it can't run. So what is the nature of that energy that it covets? That resource. For the mind, that resource is consciousness. Sure, there's a physical aspect to the brain, and so there's the vital body, the body of prana, the body of chi, but consciousness is the primary resource, the prime currency that the mind deals with, that the mind exploits. Attention. And that's why we say pay attention. We pay attention. It's a currency, it's a resource. When you focus and concentrate on something, when you are present, when you are conscious, when you are aware, and you pay attention to someone, there's no greater compliment. There's no greater courtesy. There's no greater gratuity that you can give someone than your attention, to hear them out. To let them have the floor and let them have their peace, so to speak. Let them have their day in court. There's many expressions where people are standing up and just wish to be heard. Well, the mind is no different. Because the more of our attention, our consciousness, the more it is consumed by the mind, the more we are distracted by our thoughts, by that racing, never-ending stream of thoughts and feelings and memories and fears for the future and fantasies and it goes on and on. We're feeding our mind. Our mind is exploiting that resource like any machine so they can continue running. And it pumps out, for the most part, nonsense. For the most part, the mind pumps out slop. What we call now AI slop on the internet. Like, if you just observe your thoughts for a period of time, you can see that. And that's why, whether it's the internet or out there in the world, we are inundated with messaging, with advertising, with marketing. And things are always popping up in our face. Look at me, buy this, go here, go there, save money now. And on, the messages are endless. And everything is vying for your attention. And it's Benjamin says, "Are you feeling all right, sir? I notice you seem a bit drowsy." In fact, I was just thinking to myself, I only got about 4 hours sleep last night, and so no, I'm actually not doing very well. I think we're gonna have to stop the live stream in about 5 or 10 minutes, but not before I get a few other points out. I think I was a little bit ambitious, but biting off too much, biting off more than I could chew today. And I also I didn't have time to eat before today's live stream. So talk about low energy, right? Um, talking about energy and needing energy, and right now I'm running on fumes. I did prepare some food, but it's still in the It's in the Instapot. Um, I didn't have time. I ran out of time. I ran out of time. That's it's as simple as that. Um, so probably what we'll do is we'll pick this up next week. But I did not want to um, cancel 2 weeks in a row. But suffice it to say, this move has been it's been much more work than I anticipated. And and like I said, I've been doing most of it by myself. I did have some help one day to move the big furniture, but everything else I've been moving by myself, and which is fair, which I've done before, but never have I moved this much and downsizing at the same time. So going through everything, and anyway, and it really has taken its toll, and I think you can see that. I think you can see that. Been burning the candle at both ends. So, but anyway, what I wanted to get to today, and the thumbnail for today featured this race called the Pinocchio race from Italy. And what they do is this in the fairy tale of Pinocchio takes place in certain geographic locations around a certain town in Italy, a certain region of that country. And so they have this 20-kilometer race in which some people dress up like Pinocchio or characters from the story, but whether they do or they don't, they follow this route that passes by and passes through these areas that are featured in the original story. And Pinocchio, as you know, is an allegory. Pinocchio starts off as an enchanted puppet. He's animated, but he's a marionette, right? He's made out of wood. He's a Geppetto makes him, but he's made out of wood. And he has these, and his goal, his dream is to become a real boy. And in the course of the story, you know, all sorts of things befall him, and he gets tempted, and he ends up on the island for what is it for the island of bad boys, and then he gets turned into a donkey, and then finally him and Geppetto get swallowed by the whale, and then so there's many the the fairy tale mirrors the story of Jonah in the Bible. But the connection between mechanical humanity and Pinocchio, and needing to, or the search, the quest to become a true human being. I encourage you to go and watch Pinocchio. You don't have to watch the Disney version of it. Guillermo del Toro made a stop motion animated Pinocchio that was released last year or a couple of years ago, and I believe you can watch it on Netflix. It's quite good to refamiliarize yourself with the story. I do apologize, have to for, but I mean this, you know, I cut short our live stream 2 weeks ago as well. Um, that's another thing talking about energy and age. Um, this move has shed a lot of light on myself personally, for myself personally, realizing, right, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I might feel young, mentally, emotionally, or whatever. Like, you're only as old as you think you are, but but I just can't do, like, push myself anymore like I used to, right? And I think you can see that, right? This I'm a little shocked, actually. I'm quite surprised that I'm finding myself middle, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and even with the lack of sleep or anything, I'm watching myself going, wanting to fade off. I mean, it's one thing if you're driving or whatever and you're bored, but this is a little bit, um, so it's maybe that's another reason why it's good that moving into a smaller place, less responsibility, less stuff to do all the time, taking away energy, right? Taking away strength from where it needs to be. Because again, all this machinery in our life, all these systems, all this stuff, like I'm liberating myself from a lot of that aspects of life, the mechanical life, and that really sucks the life out of us. So I can focus on what we really need to do, harnessing that energy to become true human beings. Benjamin says, yes, it's Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island in Pinocchio is the cursed, deceptive land where disobedient boys are lured to indulge in endless fun, only to transform into donkeys, asses, and be sold into slave labor, yes. Most notably seen when Pinocchio's friend Lampwick succumbs to the curse, a terrifying consequence of Pinocchio's own misbehavior. Well, thanks for sharing that, Benjamin, from Google. I couldn't remember for the life of me the name of that island. It was like the island of. I knew it was for bad boys, and I knew they turn into donkeys, and they're sold into slavery. But that's the thing about, they become asses, they become mechanical creatures, and then they're slaves, right? They're slaves of the system. Benjamin says, "Sorry to hear that, sir. I hope your move goes smoothly. Please take care and get some well-deserved rest. And I look forward to picking up this great topic again next week." Well, listen, um, I do appreciate you showing up today, everyone, and I do appreciate you being patient with me, um, seeing that I was late getting started, but as it and as it is, I'm going to be early cutting it off today. It's just been so much to do. Been 12-hour days nonstop, um, all week. So it's it's really not overwhelming. It's just I've I've never experienced this much work in a move before, because I'd moved away into other places, but they were small places, and then I was moving from a small place essentially back home, or from one small place to another small place. So I had a small collection of stuff. But now I was moving from a big place to a very small place. And it's been a process of amalgamating and collecting, and then taking apart that big space, and then oh, it's just it's so much more work and effort that I had anticipated. I really underestimated how much time and energy all of this was going to take. So uh, I thank you for your patience and understanding, and hopefully by next week I'll be more settled, and I'll have an opportunity to get some rest and be better prepared for next Sunday's live stream. But I did not want to cancel two in a row, so I did my best. I just think I just bit off more than I can chew. I think it was just too ambitious. I probably should have canceled after all, maybe. But in any case, so we've done an hour. You guys have a great week. Um, Hopefully, I'll see you all next week. And until then, as always, inferential peace. Take care, everyone.